So there has been many layoffs in tech companies. Okay,
Yeah.
and but many tech companies at the same time have been investing heavily on generative AI. Like for example,
Mm,
Microsoft invested nearly $10 billion into ChatGPT.
mm.
And so, can we say that Gen AI will bring up the new revolution?
100%. The landscape that I think you also have seen there is that a lot of big tech companies are making their move now to see who is
Hmm.
going ahead of each other, right? Microsoft, you had ChatGPT, OpenAI. Google, you have Palm. And then what else? Amazon is coming out their own Code
Right.
Whisperer. So all these big tech companies are trying to create their own LM models. Meta released their open source Llama 2 recently. And to answer your question, yes, it's gonna revolutionize many industries. And the big wave is started by all these big guys. And I think moving down the road, the concern or rather the thought that I have is, would this be dominated by the big guys, right? Would all the AI companies or SMEs be restricted to use the open AI API models? If that is the case, that means the big guys will control the whole landscape.
Welcome to Data Science Dialogues, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of data science and analytics, going beyond the lines of code to explore the crucial business aspects that drive innovation and decision making. I'm your host, ST, and each episode we will be joined by industry experts, thought leaders, and pioneers in the field of data science and analytics.
Today we had Admond Lee. Admond Lee, a trailblazer in data science, founded Chatted AI, revolutionizing insights with lightning fast AI. With a background spanning influencer marketing and tech ventures, he's reshaping industries. As an educator on his YouTube channel and through writing, he's democratizing data science education, making complex concepts accessible to all. Admond, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for making the time. How's it going for you?
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me today. It's been quite busy with different exciting projects, but super happy to be here today to share with you and share more about my mistakes and also lessons learned. Yeah.
Great, great. Thanks for making the time, Admin. I have noticed that you have a background of physics, and now you are deeply involved in data science and AI. How did this transition happen for you? I mean, when was that aha moment that led you to this path?
Right. I think it was quite an interesting journey. All the full journey started when I went for my first internship a few years ago, overseas at CERN. It was a particle physics institute where you study the nature of physics. And that's how I started learning machine learning after I joined a workshop. That workshop itself was quite life changing to me because a few years back, at least me, I never heard of machine learning or data science. It was the first time I started knowing about this topic, and it immediately got my attention because it was crazy back then how you could identify insights based on data. To me, it was fascinating, right? Because I never realized the power of data in that way, and so after the workshop, after the internship, when I came back to Singapore, I started self learning more about machine learning, and then I discovered data science, which is a whole new area surrounding machine learning and AI and stuff like that. And I think that's how I got myself into data science back then. Yeah,
Got it, Admin. So the workshop was life changing for you.
yeah, 100%. I mean, like, super grateful for the opportunity to join the internship, and because of that, it kind of changed my whole career trajectory from
Mm-hmm.
originally thinking of being a PhD student or postdoc in physics, studying physics, pursuing my studies, to
Mm-hmm.
becoming a data scientist. It was a crazy journey. It took me a lot of time to change my career path, but it was totally worth it, I guess. Yeah.
Got it, Admin. So, Admin, great that you founded Chatted AI. Could you please talk about more about the same, how chat and AI happened, as a business, as well as how it can help students in their day-to-day life?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I just recently launched Shutter AI for open beta, literally like just a week ago. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
eventual purpose of doing that is that after being a data scientist in the past few years, I realized there's a common challenge, which is non-technical people, especially SMEs, they struggle to get insights from data. Either they don't know how to make sense of the data, or they don't have the resource to hire data scientists or analysts to come and help them make sense of the data. And because of that, they are stuck. And so I want to fix that. And that's why I decided to build Chatter AI to serve SMEs and also non-technical people to make sense of the data for them to make better decisions. And how it works is through, think of it like a chat GPT for data analytics, right? If you ever use chat GPT, it's like just talking with a friend. You can ask follow-up questions and stuff like that. And the vision for Chatter AI is that what if in the near future you can just connect to your data source, upload an Excel file, whatever, and then you can ask any questions you want, and then it can give you some insights for you to make better decisions. That's the ultimate goal of Chatter AI, right? Where you can ask any questions you want and get insights from the data sets that you have. Then you can go on to do what you need to do, right? With better decisions and optimize your ROI for your business and stuff like that. Yeah. And then we are just getting
Yes.
started, so we are still very, very
Mm-hmm.
early. But so far, we have about 100 plus users. Most of them are either uh, data scientists or SMEs who want to make sense of the data. And so right now, we are trying to onboard more users to test it out. It's totally free. And then we'll find out, okay, which use case we're going to focus on for Chatter AI and double down our effort on that. Yeah.
So making it much more easier for people to extract insights from data, and that's AI is doing that for you now. Great. Uh, so, Admond, generative AI has taken every industry by surprise now, and this is just the start, I suppose. How do you think this is going to transform every industry right now?
Well, I think the future is very exciting, especially after ChatGPT was released last year in
Mm-hmm.
December. And so we noticed that recently almost every day there's always a new AI tool coming out solving certain problem for certain industry. And the short answer is AI is going to change most of the industries, especially the traditional industry that requires repetitive tasks that can be potentially automated by generative AI. And some of these industries that could be disrupted by Gen AI, a few of them could be, F&B, insurance, marketing, and even logistics. Those that requires a lot of admin work. But all this could be made possible with generative AI. To make your life more productive. Yeah, as a user. So I think it's going to disrupt many industries in the near future, but it will first disrupt the few major industries before this technology will be democratized for the rest of the other industries. And the first few industries that will be disrupted that I think of, in my opinion, first one of them would be in finance. Finance affects everything, and so almost every new breakthrough in technology, finance will be almost the first industry that is disrupted. When Web3 comes along, crypto, finance first, and then the rest of the industries. And so for data science itself, a few years ago when it was popularized, finance, like bank, stuff like that. And now generative AI, I suggest, or I think it is still similar. Finance will be disrupted first, financial data, stuff like that, because financial industry has a lot of data and that can easily be make easy accessible to other people in this space. Yeah, that's just how I see that in the current
Yeah,
landscape.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
So, besides finance industries, I mean, generative AI has, taken over almost all sorts of content creation. Okay. And a few days back, I've been reading an article that mentioned that generative, the content generated by human or human generated content, which are genuine, will be sold at a higher premium as compared to the content that has been generated by Gen AI. So, what's your take on that?
Well, I think you mentioned a super good point. Content creation has taken a huge uh, productivity boost because of generative AI. Because I'm a content creator myself. I create content on LinkedIn. I've been doing this for the past few years. But a lot of time I have my writer's block. I don't know what to write. I don't know what topics to write about. I don't know how I should write it, the copywriting, stuff like that. But with ChatGPT and many other content creation tools out there, powered by AI, now it has made our lives so much easier that we can just ask ChatGPT, for example, what are the most painful problems in data science that I can talk about in my newsletter, for example. And then it'll give me a top three topics to talk about. Suddenly my writer's block is gone. I can move on to continue writing on my own, stuff like that. So I would say AI has made our life so much easier for content creators to make content with a high quality content, and also to make it easier to get started to start writing or pushing out content. It's not just about in the writing format, but in also the video format and also audio format. Whichever format that you make content, written, video, audio, you have to you need to have a script, right? When you write a post, you need to have script. When you produce a video, you need to have a script. When you have a podcast or an audio, you need to have a script. So it all boils down to script, and script can be generated through AI as a starting point, and then you can customize your tone from there. So I think it's gonna be a huge game changer.
Currently, many people, including analytics professionals, okay, are kind of afraid that with advancements in AI, their job is at stake. Many content creators, kind of lost their jobs, owing to generative AI. What's your point of view on the same?
Mm, I would say instead of being fearful, why not embrace the technology to elevate your productivity, right? I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
say AI would eventually wipe out the whole content creators. Otherwise, the creator economy wouldn't exist, right? It would be just AI economy. But the fact that creator economy is booming, so many other creators are considering this as a full-time job. There's a reason for that, and one of the reasons is that attention is the new currency now, and the
Right.
way that you get attention is really through your genuinity, authenticity as a creator. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think uh, it'll be wiped out, but their workflow of creating content will be slightly affected, and that they have to make use of technology. Otherwise, their productivity, the content quality will be always lagging behind compared to people who embrace the technology to create content. Yeah, and so I think the takeaway for me is uh, instead of rejecting that or ignoring that, try to understand the technology, embrace that, and see how you can leverage the technology, right, for your content creation game. I'm using that for my LinkedIn posts sometimes, and also newsletter topics generation. Yeah, but the content is not written by AI. It's just that it helps me brainstorm certain topics, give me a good starting point to get started, and then I can write my own post from there. Yeah.
Got it, Admin. Uh, after I after you what you said, I recall a topic. I mean, I was reading across it. Currently, there is a strike going on in Hollywood,
Hmm.
in which filmmakers or producers want to replace background actors with AI generated characters, and only by paying them only for a day. And what's your take on that? That's also a product of generative AI.
Yeah, I think in that sense, of course, people's livelihood will be slightly affected by that. But I still believe
Hmm.
that content in its creativity. and the fact that creativity knows no boundaries because human has unlimited creativity by linking to different dots. But whereas on the other hand, AI, the creativity is limited to the training data that has been trained on. And
Exactly.
that is one of the biggest limitation of AI nowadays, no matter how creative it claims to be, right? So this is the first point. The second point is that if you talk about the filming industry, so let's take an example, right? The very latest movie, Oppenheimer, right? Most people, watch this movie. They don't watch this movie just because of the content. Of course, the content is super good. I know that. But most of them, they watch this video is because of the director behind it. And the director behind has created tons of blockbuster movies like Batman's, stuff like that. And the fact that people love watching the movie created by this director is because of how unconventional the way that he portrays a story, and how little green screen that he uses to provide blockbusters movie that captures people's attention through a great storyline. I think that itself is extremely hard to be automated, to be honest. Can be automated in some ways, but not entirely. Yeah, maybe productivity wise be improved. But if you ask me, can a movie be produced by AI in the future? The answer is yes. But would people go and watch it? Market adoption wise, I highly doubt that. So yeah,
Absolutely. So human creativity, takes a lead above any generative AI, right? So
yeah.
yeah, and talking about Oppenheimer, uh, Elon Musk said a very famous quote. AI is more dangerous than nukes.
Mhm.
Are we heading towards that reality?
Wow. I think the fear that Elon Musk or maybe other people have is perfectly legit because uh, ever since the launch of ChatGPT, a lot of people are calling out, for AI safety, the
Mm-hmm.
governance, and all this stuff. I think it's very valid because one of the biggest fear in AI is that it is a black box. It was
Right.
trained on billions and trillions of parameters, but you don't know which parameter, how it's linked to another parameter, and why is it the model makes the decision the way it is. How do you identify the bias, stuff like that. You wouldn't know that. And the fact that it's black box makes people not willing to adopt this technology, especially for big enterprises, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of the biggest issue now in AI. How can you ensure that it is safe to use? How do you reduce the bias? How do you make sure that it wouldn't generate some vicious content, right? How do you do the filtering and stuff like that? This is super hard. And so far, luckily, a lot of researchers are working hard to solve this issue. Um, but I think without a good governance of AI safety, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely hard to be democratized to general people like you and me to use that. And that's also the reason why, despite the popularity of ChatGPT now, a lot of big enterprises are still standing on the sideline and they observe. They don't see how it evolves, right, the technology, but they don't adopt it yet. So this is
Right.
one. The second is uh, SMEs. They don't know what to do. I've heard a lot of SMEs say, have you seen ChatGPT? Have you used that? Oh, it's super cool. How can I use that? Like, is this safe or what is the use case? How can it help me make more money? How can it help me save my costs? People look at the technology, they are surprised and then they are impressed by that. But the next question is, how can I use that in my business in a safe way? I think that
Mm-hmm.
is a big question to be answered.
So there has been many layoffs in tech companies. Okay,
Yeah.
and but many tech companies at the same time have been investing heavily on generative AI. Like for example,
Mm,
Microsoft invested nearly $10 billion into ChatGPT.
mm.
And so, can we say that Gen AI will bring up the new revolution?
100%. the landscape that I think you also have seen there is that a lot of big tech companies are making their move now to see who is
Mm-hmm.
going ahead of each other, right? Microsoft, you had ChatGPT, OpenAI. Google, you have Palm, and then what else? Amazon is coming out their own Code
Right.
Whisperer. So all these big tech companies are trying to create their own LM models. Meta released their open source Llama 2 recently. And to answer your question, yes, it's gonna revolutionize many industries. And the big wave is started by all these big guys. And I think moving down the road, the concern or rather the thought that I have is, would this be dominated by the big guys, right? Would all the AI companies or SMEs be restricted to use the open AI API models? If that is the case, that means the big guys will control the whole landscape. And I don't think that is the long term approach. The way that I see that is, this is just my thought, right? Is, in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, um, the models that's gonna be made accessible to everyone would be the open source LLM models. And Meta make a great move of that by open sourcing their Llama 2. And the reason why I say that is, if you look back in the history in a programming language, let's say, there's so many languages out there like Java, Python, MATLAB. And one of the reasons why Python has been so popular nowadays, like being in the data space, software engineer, data engineering, all sorts of things, is that it's open source, supported by the huge community. Right? Of course, there's a premium you can pay to use Python, but the fact that it's open source has made accessible to everyone. On the other hand, MATLAB is a commercial license programming language.
Right.
There's no free version. You have to pay. What is who gonna pay? Either you are academia or you're big companies. Like, people are still using that, but in a commercial way. That's why it's limited and supported by a smaller community. Now, if we draw the analogy, Python would be the open source LLM models, and MATLAB would be the open AI API. Right now, many people, especially the AI tools, are using MATLAB. Like
Got
analogy,
it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think down the road, there would be a Python-like LLM model coming out, and that will make it so much more possible for many other applications to use for two reasons. The first one is it's open source, it's free, and the second one is it is safer because it's
Mm-hmm.
open source. You know exactly the architecture. You can download the whole thing. You can host it on your server. You wouldn't be concerned that, hey, would Microsoft or OpenAI listen to my prompts, the questions, the data set? Right? All this would be more or less fixed with the open source models. Yeah.
Got it, Admond. So, you worked upon multiple ventures now, and Chatted AI is one of them. What was your other ventures, if you could please brief about them a bit?
Yeah, sure. So currently I have two things on my plate. The first one, of course, is Chatter AI.
Mm-hmm.
Is a ChatGPT for data analytics for SMEs, right? And the other one is the agency tech that they're building. Recently I also joined an influencer marketing agency called Extend. And what I'm doing is actually to help them build their tech capabilities, to basically transform the agency from being just an agency to a tech company, starting with our first product called LeadGram. Basically, it's a retargeting marketing technology that I'm building. How it works is, say today you like an Instagram's post. Right? What is your favorite brand?
Yeah, I'll go for Meta. Yeah.
So let's say today Meta publish an Instagram post and you like that. And then say 5 minutes after, you probably receive a customized message from Meta saying that, hey, SD, it's
Mm-hmm.
just so that you like one of our posts. Maybe you might be interested in this product. Here's a 20% discount voucher for you. So this is what we are doing. We try to increase the conversion rates by sending
Right.
highly targeted uh, messages to Instagram users. And this is the first product that we're building in-house. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, so currently these are the two ventures that I'm having. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it, Admond. So you started a venture in the finance domain as well. How do you think you were talking about it in the very beginning? Hi everyone, thanks for watching the podcast so far. Sorry for the pause, but this video has been powered by Data Science Pathshala. Data Science Pathshala has come up with a mentorship program for aspiring data scientists. So if you are looking for any help regarding data science, kindly do enroll in this program, which includes mock interview, resume preparation, customized path to upskill in data science, and much more. This mentorship program is absolutely free. Kindly fill the Google form in the video description to enroll for the mentorship program. Here are the testaments of some of the people who upskilled themselves at Data Science Pathshala. How do you think AI is going to transform the finance domain?
Yeah. Fun fact, before I started Chatter AI and joining this agency, I was actually building my fintech startup called Stack, right? And my co-founder and I have been working on this for the past 1.5 years. And recently, I think because of our runway and also the poor product market fit, we decided to shut it down and pursue our own ventures. Right? But we have learned so much within these 1.5 years. And one of the biggest learnings from building a fintech startup is that uh, the data quality itself is extremely hard to achieve in the fintech space, especially you need to maintain the data pipelines, making sure that data integrity is preserved and all this stuff. And I think one way that I see how generative AI can come in for fintech is the fraud detection part. Because the main use cases we were exploring back then, we're focusing on, was in SME lending. And when it comes to SME lending, you need to, as an SME, when you want to borrow money, you have to submit a lot of documents, right? Your bank statement, your credit report, all this stuff. And the way that it works now is pretty manual. If I'm the SME, I have to, log into my bank account, download the bank statement, upload it to the portal, or maybe even print that out and submit to the people, right? The lenders. Now, all this process is very subject to fraud. Because if I were the SME, I want to get better loan rates or more amount, I could potentially, fix some amount, change the PDF, and then submit to you, and you might miss
Mm-hmm.
that. So this kind of fraud is pretty prevalent now when it comes to
Right.
lending, and lenders are aware of that. And that's why the thing that I think generative AI can come in is to reduce the frauds by really looking at the data source, and flag out those with a potential fraud transactions to the lenders so that they can make better decisions. Yeah.
Recently, there were three major banks that collapsed in USA: Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate, and Signature. How artificial intelligence or can have prevented those scenarios to happen?
Wow. It was quite a big collapse. I still remember last year, crypto and all these that caused many other banks collapse. And one of the biggest reasons why I think this thing are preventable is the governance part. A lot of these startups, these banks, they kind of lack the internal governance, and a lot of them are still running on a very old process that people just assume the process is okay, when in fact it is not.
Mhm.
So many money are missing, and people are not notice, are not aware of that. I think one potential use case that I think generative AI can come in and help is again to identify uh, the patterns of the bank transactions to make sure that there's not any fishy transaction going out without getting noticed. And I think people who are doing the accounting, the booking, uh, should consider using this in some of their processes. But again, back to what we said
Mhm.
earlier, a lot of finance companies, especially banks, are moving slightly slower to embrace
Right.
generative AI is because of the safety. It's a black box. And also when it comes to banks, finance, there's huge ton of compliance things you have to clear. I was in fintech before, and the more we
Mm-hmm.
started, the more we talk with our customers, the more we build our products, the more we realize that building a product is one thing, but passing the compliance thing is a very, very big question mark. And that is not just time intensive. You have to go through a huge cycle to get the ISO cert, which takes you like, I don't know, 40K to get those certs. And it's time and resource intensive just to get certified, to tell the clients that you are legit. Yeah. And so the compliance process, we didn't expect to be that complicated until we step onto this ground. And I think this is also something that will be a huge roadblock for generative AI to be adopted in the banking industry. It is possible, but it takes time.
Yeah, so given the time, if generative AI can be used to identify patterns of transactions and even compliances moving forward. And yeah, so yeah, got it. Now, so Admin, we will switch our gears here a bit. You transitioned from physics to data science.
Hmm.
Even today, many AI aspirants are not aware of how to transition into this field. As you have mentored many aspirants, I suppose, and how should one make this transition into this field?
Well, I got asked a lot of these questions also throughout these years, but I think it's a very valid question because I struggled the same as well when I was transitioning into data science. Nobody I can ask because back then it was still early in the game, and
Mm-hmm.
all I could do is just to join meetups, look up for some LinkedIn data scientists to learn from them. And so after all these years, I've come up with a conclusion that if you want to transition into data science, whether you are in computer science or in a totally different domain, say psychology, the one advice that I always give is that start building your portfolio by doing projects, right? You can take a lot of certificates from joining different boot camps, taking Udemy courses. All those are okay, but I take this as learning courses to help me learn the basics, and that's it. I wouldn't use those certificates to help me find a job because it won't. Employers wouldn't look at how many certs you have got. They look at what you can do. And the only way to show what you can do is to do projects. And so my approach is always to first learn the basics by taking, say, Udemy course, watching YouTube, whatever. Like learn the basic, the fundamentals first. Be it for programming language, Python, pandas, stuff like that, or also statistics. After I learn the basics, I'll immediately start working on a project. Now, what is a project? A project could mean different things. It could be an internship. It could be your personal project, or it could be a hackathon that you join, right? Basically, everything that you can get your hands dirty is considered a project. There's no big or small project. It is a project that you can utilize what you have learned and practice your skills from there, right? And so, depending on what age that you are at, if you are still a student or fresh grad, get an internship, start doing personal projects, and then start moving into the industry, right? Um, Now, the caveat is once you have done some projects, you have something to show. So, of course, you can still go and apply for a job or perhaps get some interviews. But the next step that I would strongly advise to amplify your chances of success for your transition is that once you have built a portfolio, start networking on LinkedIn. Like start as early as possible, get to know the data community is super helpful and active, and start building your personal brand, right? Writing content on LinkedIn, sharing your journey, your document, your journey, sharing your mistakes, your lesson learned, sharing your project with other people. because you will never know. Let's say you write a post on LinkedIn to showcase your project, maybe just 10 views, but that's fine, right? Maybe just 100 views. Let's say you have 100 views of your post. What if within these 100 views, there's 5 of them that are recruiters and they saw your post and they think, hey, this guy has a very interesting project. And then you got reached out by these 5 recruiters, right? And this is how you got the interviews and potentially land a job by amplifying your reach. So in short, the 3 steps that I would say is first, learn the basics by taking courses. Second step is to build your projects by either doing internship, personal projects, or joining competitions. Then the third step would be start building your personal brand and also start networking on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Got it, Admin. So learn the basics, uh, build your own portfolio, and then showcase the same to your networks, right? And that being said, Admin, in your view, since you have had involved in multiple ventures now, in your view, what are some of the key challenges that startups face when it comes to adopting AI and data science? And what are some misconceptions or common pitfalls you have noticed while you were involved in, startups?
I think let's answer your first question, right? What's the common challenges when adopting AI, right, in startup?
Right.
I think the first struggle or misconception is that uh, nowadays people tend to think that AI is a one size fit all thing. Uh, they see AI as a hammer, and they take this hammer and everything that they see is a nail. So they use this hammer to apply on everything. But in reality, that's not the case. Instead of using AI and solve certain problems, you find a problem and then you look at the solution and see if AI is a good solution. So the misconception here is people tend to start with the solution and then look for a problem, right? So the approach that I'm suggesting here is, instead of doing this, let's identify a problem and then start thinking about the solution and see whether AI is a good solution to solve that problem. If there's not, then maybe you can try other stuff, right? Not just AI. So AI is just one of the many ways to solve a problem. So I think this is to answer the first one. Okay, so second question is pretty interesting. So what are the common struggles or challenges when building a startup? To be frank, there are tons and tons of different challenges out there. If I were to just highlight just one main struggle, would be to, I would say, find the right problem to solve.
Okay.
Yeah, that the last thing you want as a startup founder is you spend weeks and months or even years building something, and at the end of the day, you realize that what you are building is an imaginary problem that doesn't have any users. That's like one of the most unfortunate things you can have as a founder. And
Right. Mhm.
I encounter this all the time, like last time, or even in my previous startup. And so, and that's why I learn from my mistakes. When I'm building Chatter AI now, I start with a problem, and then I try to build a very hackish version MVP out. In fact, the Chatter AI that I launched recently is V2. I actually launched V1 in May this year, but it sucks. But it did the work, so I revamped it and revamped the backend, and I launched the V2 just recently. And so it's never a perfect time, but I'll just keep iterating, finding the problems, that's worth solving until hopefully we'll be eventually, achieving the product market fit, which is the holy grail, right, of the startup. Definitely we are not there yet, but we are progressing towards that direction. Yeah.
Got it, Admond. So, I personally have been working in LLMs. Okay. And
Hmm.
recently I found it very challenging to find out what infrastructure is very important, which infrastructure is necessary to deploy that particular LLM, determining that this much GPU, this much,
Mm.
load sharing is necessary and everything. So yeah, that has been a big challenge for me as well. And if talking about large language models,
Mm.
which is empowering tools like ChatGPT, then Pathways language model is something came up recently.
Mm.
Uh, how will you explain LLM in a simple language for our viewers, let's say? And if someone is interested in LLM, what's your advice of how to approach to learn that?
Right. Good question. So the first part is, uh, how would I explain an LM to someone, right? The way that I
What's an
explain,
LLM?
yeah,
Yeah.
what is an LM? The way that I explain to a 5 years old is this. So if you go to an exam, you study your class material, you read a book, textbook, let's say, then you go for an exam. So what LM does is that it has actually study almost all the books from the internet in the world and has identified certain pattern from those materials.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why in the exam, when you ask the LM any questions, the LM can very easily answer you because it has studied almost all the materials in the industry in the world based on the cutoff dates, right? Right, the time where he has finished studying. And so think of LM as your chatbot assistant, whereby this chatbot is very powerful. It knows almost everything from computing, science, exams, arts, any other domains that you can think of. You can ask questions and get an answer to that. Just bear in mind that this LLM might not be updated to the latest news. And so when you tend to ask some latest news, what's happening today, then you might be better off by going just Google search for that particular news, right? So this hopefully that will make sense to a non-technical people. And the second one, how to learn how to build LLM models. Is that your question?
Yeah. How to go about learning an LLM?
Yeah, I don't know the best approach, but I will just share my approach of learning because I'm building Chatter
Right.
AI, and I knew nothing before that, and so I try to also self learn and build along the way. The way that I use that is, I think honestly, if you want to learn how to build an LLM application, be sure to check out Andrew Ng's course launched by Deep Learning AI. Like there's one course that I highly recommend. It's called I think Prompt Engineering
Mm-hmm.
Development for Developers, something like that. From that course, 1 hour course is free by the way. Take that course 1 hour, I jot down all the notes and I know roughly what is the best practice of doing prompt engineering, how to write a good prompt, stuff like that, how to iterate the prompt towards the output that I want. So this is the first one. Now once I learned the prompt engineering, I realized that I still can't build a proper or working LLM because having a good prompt is one thing, but building a fully functioning LLM application is a separate story. So here comes the second step. The second step that I learned is LangChain. Before I knew LangChain, I actually built the whole flow myself. That's how the V1 work, and that's why it suck. Because the whole workflow is not robust, it's not stable. I have to build almost everything myself, and that is super tiring. But after I realized a lot of people started talking about LangChain, and I started knowing more about LangChain, and I was like, wow, this LangChain is basically the framework that I've been always looking for because it's not just about prompt engineering. LangChain basically is a framework, how you orchestrate the workflow, how you can iterate with different prompts, how you can start answering questions with chain of thoughts. How do you optimize your prompt? How do you optimize your workflow? How do you change to different logic? Stuff like that. So luckily, deep learning AI also has this course. I think it's called LangChain, building LLM application using LangChain. So I took that course 1 hour free, and I started building my V2. This is really how hackish my way of learning is. I learned that again. It kind of mapped back to how I learn things, right, and also how to go into data science is that I learn from courses. In this case, 1 hour course. After I learned, what do? I started building project, right, around what I've learned, which is Chatter AI. And the third step is I share my project on LinkedIn to reach out to as many people as possible. So always use these 3 steps, right? Learn the basic, build the project, and share with others. And the reason why it's so powerful, at least to me, is that you learn the basics. If you do project after that, very likely you won't forget what you learned because you know why you learned something and you use that in project. That's very powerful and it solidifies your learning. And I think learning by doing is always the best approach to me. And I think that's also the same. If you want to learn LLM model, the best way to learn is by doing. Make sure that you learn enough basics. Make sure that you don't overlearn. You don't need to learn 100% to get started, right? You don't need to learn from A to Z. Maybe you learn the ABC first, and then when you are doing, you realize that you actually need to learn D. Then you go back and then start learning the D and continue building. So that iterative approach of learning by doing is super helpful, yeah, to the LLM.
Got it, Admond. That's a valuable framework there. If I switch another gear here,
Sure.
on a lighter note, apart from data science and startups, what are your other passions and hobbies?
Wow, I like building.
Okay.
That's why I have Shutter and many other stuff ongoing. I think my biggest hobby is uh, reading. I know it's a bit boring, but reading books. I like the fact that I can learn from many brilliant minds and giants around the world by just learning from their books, the wisdom that they have, right? And that really is a shortcut to me to learn the lessons, the mistakes that they learn. And so reading is, I try to squeeze as much time as possible to read books, whether I'm commuting, whether I'm going somewhere, whether I'm at the shopping mall. I always carry my bag and I always have a book inside my bag. So people, when people ask me why am I carrying my bag, yeah, I have a book, man. Yeah, I read whenever I go. And so I think reading is like my hobby. Of course, I have other passions as well. I also have my newsletter called Hustle Hub, which I recently launched. So this newsletter basically is a letter to my younger self, and I talk about the data science creatives, everything that I talk about today with you, and I also share that in my newsletter. Besides data science, I also talk about my startup journey. So this newsletter talk about data science and startup. So if you are keen, you can feel free to also join us. I think currently we have around 1.5k people in the community. So hopefully we can grow it up to more people in the months to come. Yeah. So newsletter is another passion project that I'm building. YouTube, which I recently launched, but it's because I'm so busy nowadays. But YouTube has always been something that I want to do. That I very luckily I launched it a few months ago, and I share a few videos on data science. One thing I love about is besides just talking about doing the technical things, coding all day long, I realized that one area that I love about is the creative parts of things. Newsletter, writing content on LinkedIn, creating videos on YouTube. All this kind of sparks my right side of the brain, the creative side of my brain, instead of just using my left brain. And I think that's helpful to me because it somehow helped me link to different dots that are seemingly unrelated. But because I am in this creative part of thing, I can then link to different things. I think that I think Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, talked about that, and I totally agree with is that the the the, the future skills that is so powerful and important is the creativity part, which is how you link different parts of the system together to do a job. I think that is, to me, is something that cannot be automated by AI. Something that is so powerful that you can build innovative solution and products from there. Yeah. Sorry, I think I think I'm going a bit too far, but yeah.
No,
so
no,
so
that's
so yeah.
that's
So
absolutely
yeah.
great. That's a great idea, right? Like writing it back to your childhood, right? As a
Mm.
newsletter. I mean, that's something great, man. I mean, I'll definitely link that on our LinkedIn, your newsletters, website or how to subscribe over that. If you can please tell our viewers.
Oh sure, yeah. Uh, let me see. Think. Oh, you can just go to Admond Admond beehive.com. So Admond.beehive.com. That is my newsletter page. Feel free to subscribe.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it, Admin. So thanks for making the time. It was lovely talking to you. I'm looking forward to more insightful conversations with you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm glad that hopefully that's helpful. And I really enjoy chatting with you and appreciate your time and thanks for having me once again.